Dressed for what I thought would be our first day in Dubai, I watched in disbelief as they placed their suitcases in the taxi waiting for them. Just the day before, we had reviewed our itinerary. Her casual disregard made my stomach churn. This was no last-minute change of plans. It was calculated and deliberate. As their taxi turned the corner, taking my dreams of our family luxury vacation with it, I remained frozen on the doorstep. The vacation was one I had saved for by working extra hours at my consulting job for the past year. Planned in detail to include activities Audrey would appreciate, hoping it would finally close the distance between us. What they didn't realize was that I had anticipated something like this might occur. Call it a hunch. With 15 years married to Nicholas and enduring his mother's interference, I had slipped an envelope into Nicholas's suitcase the previous night while he was showering. They would discover its contents upon unpacking in the luxurious hotel room I had booked for the three of us. My hands shook as I closed the front door and went to my office. Sitting at my desk, I opened my laptop and began implementing the plan I had carefully prepared over the past 3 months, one I hoped not to use but had ready just in case. This wasn't merely about a vacation. It was about years of manipulation, systematic exclusion, and watching my marriage erode as my mother-in-law's influence grew. It was about discovering joint accounts being drained. It was about the evidence I gathered. Evidence to ensure their luxurious Dubai getaway would not be as enjoyable once they uncovered the envelope. I took a deep breath and glanced at the clock. In approximately 16 hours, they would check into the address downtown Dubai, and in 17 hours, I estimated they would likely unpack, finding my letter within 30 minutes. My sister's text jolted my phone. "Did you guys take off yet?" I smiled, thinking of the part she had played in preparing for this moment. "Not exactly," I replied. "But things are about to take off," which would surprise them far more than anything in that envelope. As afternoon shadows lengthened through the living room, I waited, knowing the moment was near when my careful plan would unfold. Nicholas's name flashing on my screen. I let it ring thrice before picking up, aiming for a steady, controlled tone. "Hello," I said, as if unaware of the reason for his call. "What the hell is this?" The calm in my own voice surprising me. "Perhaps we should begin with how long you planned this trip without me. Was it before or after you started transferring money out of our joint account to your private one?" His sharp inhalation told me I'd hit the mark. The past year had been spent observing, documenting Audrey's frequent visits conveniently timed with our date nights. But it was discovering a real estate listing on Nicholas's laptop 6 months prior that exposed the full scope of their betrayal. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," he stammered. "You mean I wasn't meant to discover it at all?" I retorted. "To sign papers when the real estate agent came." The silence was deafening. I pictured them sitting in their plush hotel room, Dubai's skyline behind them. The envelope's contents spread out, copies of bank statements showing systematic withdrawals, emails between Nicholas and the real estate agent, and photos of clandestine meetings with lawyers I was unfamiliar with. But what they truly feared wasn't those. No. It was the last page, the one outlining how their scheme would not only destroy me but also Nicholas's career. "Camila, please," Audrey interjected, her voice lined with unaccustomed vulnerability. "The company you've been secretly working to transfer into Nicholas's name solely?" Silence met my words. I could almost hear their minds racing, calculating how much I knew and for how long. "I trusted you, Nicholas," I continued, my voice softening. "Even when the signs were there, I kept faith. Remember last month when I proposed renewing our vows for our 15th anniversary? Because it seems exactly what I detailed in that letter. Every secret meeting, every concealed transaction, and each lie told to me while plotting to leave me with nothing." I paused, allowing my words to sink in. "Here's what I can't understand, though. Why Dubai? Why pretend to plan this vacation together?" "Because," Audrey broke in, her voice defensive and angry, "we needed it to look like you were the one who decided not to come. We needed witnesses to confirm your last-minute backing out. It would have made everything easier to explain." I heard Nicholas curse at his mother, but it was too late. She had confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't just about money. It was about creating a narrative casting me as the unbalanced wife neglecting her familial duties. They intended to leverage my absence as evidence in a future nasty divorce proceeding. Well, I said, permitting myself a small smile, I suppose I owe you gratitude for confessing, Audrey. The ensuing chaos on the other end was nearly comedic. Nicholas swearing, Audrey yelling about privacy laws, both speaking over one another in panic. By the way, I cut through their disorder. You might want to look at your return flight details. There have been a few changes. I hung up and leaned back, my heart racing despite the outer calm. Phase 1 was complete. They had seen the envelope, learned what it held, and divulged more than intended in their disarray. It was now time for Phase 2. I opened my laptop and selected a folder labeled Insurance, a collection of documents obtained over the past year, from bank records and recorded discussions to surveillance photographs, with the most vital piece being evidence of their intentions regarding Nicholas's father's company, meant to be co-owned by Nicholas and me according to the will. My sister's new text read, "Done." They had a meeting, a rendezvous I had set with certain interested parties in Dubai eager to discuss some financial discrepancies recently surfaced. As the sun set, bathing my desk in a golden hue, thinking they were leaving me to watch over things at home, they were about to realize precisely how keenly I had always been observing. Driving toward the airport, underneath the tattered garments intended for charity lay a representation of all they endeavored to obliterate. It wasn't merely a watch, but a bastion of their erased past. Redirecting away from the international terminal, my GPS instructed me to take a left turn. I wasn't about to pursue them to Dubai. Instead, I headed towards a secluded airstrip where Thomas Donald's old acquaintance, long-serving legal counsel for the firm, waited. "You're making the right choice, Camilla," resonated my sister Amy's voice through the car's audio system. She was on standby, coordinating with our band of supporters. "Have you checked your email? They're already engaging in damage control," she informed me. Upon parking, I opened my laptop, and there it was, an email from Nicholas, copied to all board members. "Dear Bard, it's come to my notice that my spouse Camilla may try to reach out to you regarding some troubling accusations. She's been under significant stress lately, which I fear has led to some baseless doubts." Next was an email from Audrey to Nicholas, inadvertently copied to my work email, likely in her panic. "Nicholas darling, I've spoken to Judge Harrison. He owes your father a favor and promises to expedite everything upon our return. Camilla won't see it coming. Don't concern yourself with the board." His silver hair luminous under fluorescent lighting. Beside him stood Catherine Harrison, Judge Harrison's wife and my staunch ally on the hospital board I volunteered at. "Right on time," Thomas greeted, enveloping me in a gentle hug. "The pilot's ready. Are you certain about this?" I nodded, reflecting on the chain of events I had set into motion. By now, Nicholas and Audrey would discover their access to company accounts suspended, awaiting an emergency board meeting to occur in person, not in Dubai as they planned. "Did you know?" Initially skeptical when I approached her with suspicion, her own investigation uncovered more than I anticipated. Judge Harrison's involvement was merely the tip of the iceberg. "He'll face intriguing inquiries from the Ethics Committee next week," she grimly responded, "as will several notable community members who aided this scheme." As we boarded, reaching into his briefcase, the will that Audrey and Nicholas never knew about, the one Donald instructed me to safeguard until, as he put it, Camilla most needs it. "I believe that time has come. Don't you?" As the plane taxied, I opened the envelope Thomas handed, my hands trembling for the first time that day. I've watched them transform over time, saw money and power distort their principles, yet I've also observed you remain steadfast to everything this company is rooted in: integrity, compassion, and genuine care for employees and the community. That's why you're allotted 51% of the voting shares, meant to surface only if the company's core values are endangered. Thomas is instructed to await your discovery of the truth on your own. I knew you would. You always pierce through deceit. The company's not solely about profits, Camilla. Care for our people, Camilla. Maintain our legacy. With love and trust, Donald. Tears blurred my vision as I gazed at Thomas. All this time? All this time? It's truly about the one actualized. My phone buzzed anew, an email from the board in response to Nicholas's damage control ploy. I smiled at the first line. Every card they held was on the verge of exposure as worthless. I held a different hand, one crafted years ago by a man who foresaw everything and planned accordingly. The game wasn't over. Perhaps we should await Nicholas, too. I'm afraid my son and his wife encountered travel complications, cut Audrey's sharp voice, her entry less poised than usual. Her attire crumpled from what must have been a frantic overnight flight from Dubai. Audrey, I greeted with a smile, gesturing to a distant chair from its usual placement near the table's head. Delighted you could join us. Hope your flight was agreeable. Her narrowed gaze met my serene demeanor, clearly anticipating finding me emotional. Unstable, the narrative they'd meticulously constructed. Instead, she faced both the company's old guard and fresh faces. Catherine Harrison, Thomas. I interjected smoothly. Your role as CEO is among today's discussed topics. Brandishing Donald's letter, which awaited this defining moment for 3 years. Alongside other matters your father deemed necessary. Both Nicholas and Audrey's faces drained of color as I began reading Donald's note aloud. With each unveiling sentence, silence enveloped the room, the truth of their duplicity unraveling not solely to me but all who'd vested trust in them. Camila, Nicholas's voice fractured, pled, you don't understand. Everything I did was for the company, interjected Catherine Harrison, her voice frosty. Was it for the company when funds intended for the children's hospital wing vanished, or when you conspired to override board decisions with my husband? Clandestine meeting, every corporate holding manipulation attempt. Turning to board members, including properties some of you were promised for silence. Manifestations of discomfort rippled through some board members. Others, however, straightened, their expressions resolute, realizing deception's breadth. The question, I declared. I'm offering the same choice Donald presented me, redemption or consequences. With a nod to Thomas, who distributed a secondary set of documents, 2 potential press releases. One announcing leadership restructuring for personal reasons, the other unveils our findings, implicating judicial figures and board members in corporate fraud. Nicholas appeared pallid on screen. Camila, please consider the family nom. I've contemplated, I replied, touching the watch retrieved from charity donations, now secured upon my wrist where it belonged. What the name represented to your father and its significance to us. The ensuing hour blurred in revelations, accusations, and finally, as the meeting concluded, I had one final twist to reveal. Someone else had something to say to the board. I nodded to Amy, and the screen split revealing Judge Harrison's wife, Catherine, smiling next to Nicholas. Hello everyone, she said. I believe it's time to address the future of the children's hospital wing and where the diverted funds were truly going. Audrey's composure shattered as she sank into her chair. Just a profound sadness over lost possibilities and a steely resolve for the path ahead. The company, some in shame, others respectful, Thomas lingered behind. Donald would be proud, he said quietly. But this is just the start. Are you ready for what's next? I touched the watch Donald gifted me, reflecting on everything he taught me about business, trust, and family. Yes, I answered, gazing at the family photos on the wall that would soon need updating. I picked up the framed photo of Donald's 60th birthday, now with new eyes seeing Audrey's arm around me as a possessive gesture. With a heavy heart, I placed it face down, setting it on the desk. Thank you, Lisa, I sighed, wrapping my hands around the cup. They're processing, she replied to my inquiry about the team. The effect of the diverted hospital funds hit hard, especially given employees with treated children. There's more you need to know, she added. My heart sank. What now? Audrey's spreading rumors about your mental state, Lisa disclosed, painting this as paranoia. I laughed without humor. And Nicholas? He's claiming you manipulated Donald's mental state for the second will, Lisa informed. The tea tasted bitter. They twisted the narrative, casting me as the villain, but overlooked a key detail. Lisa, I stood, asked Thomas to get the security footage from Donald's last hospital stay. An hour later, Thomas arrived with a hard drive. Are you sure? He asked, connecting it to the TV. It won't be easy, I admitted, but it's necessary. The footage showed Donald's hospital room 3 days before his passing. I was there, hidden, reading reports. Audrey and Nicholas arrived. Their conversation, captured by the room's security, was damning. Just sign these, Dad, Nicholas urged, hiding the truth from an ailing Donald. Where's Camila? Donald weakly asked, wanting my review. She isn't family, Audrey snapped, betraying their ploy. The curtain's concealment ended as I emerged, catching their heinous act of coercion. Well, an unfamiliar Dubai number. Against better judgment, I answered aloud. Mrs. Collins, came an accented voice. Detective Rashid from Dubai Police. We're investigating concerning transactions from your company. Thomas and I exchanged knowing glances. Nicholas's diversion of funds was suspected. Yes, detective, I replied calmly. Your father-in-law taught me to keep dual records, she revealed, one for exposure, one for truth. I felt a profound gratitude for these silent allies, guardians of Donald's true legacy. My phone buzzed again, a warning about Audrey's server access attempts and encrypted files found on Nicholas's private drive. Exhausted but resolute, I ordered, Lisa, lock down all system access except for essentials. Another knock, this time Catherine Harrison, urgently entered. Camila, turn on the news. The TV showed a segment on company turmoil. Nicholas and Audrey schemed, but in my office, we planned 3 steps ahead. The game had changed, and so had I, no longer the dutiful daughter-in-law but an unforeseen leader honed by experience. Donald taught me that true power is about responsibility and protecting what truly matters, even when confronting those once called family. I drafted a company-wide email. To all employees. You need to see this. Midnight neared, the office mostly vacated, yet a core team delved into Nicholas's encrypted files. I steeled for discoveries, aware that we were unearthing grave truths. They had known. The files revealed that Nicholas and Audrey discovered Donald's condition months early, yet withheld treatment, choosing instead to plot. There's more, Marcus interjected, displaying further emails. Their Dubai trip wasn't mere evasion. They negotiated with investors, promised control over international sectors. Trembling, I read emails detailing plans to dismantle Donald's life work, selling it off bit by bit. That Dubai vacation was their triumph parade, concluding deals while I remained ignorant at home. Unaware my signature on routine documents would dissolve Donald's legacy. Mrs. Collins, Lisa reappeared. The hospital board is on line 1. They unearthed something from the audit. I answered the call on speaker, welcoming Marcus and Lisa's ears. Catherine Harrison's voice resonated. Camila, we've tracked those diverted hospital funds. Their reach extended beyond the children's department. They were systematically underfunding patient care, camouflaging it in books to appear as full expenditure, leading to people's sufferings. I gripped the desk, memories of Donald's swift decline, the premium facility Audrey insisted upon, and the restricted visiting hours that kept me away flooded back. They put him in a place they knew was cutting corners, I said, horror sinking in. Their own father and husband. Mrs. Collins, Marcus's voice was hesitant. There's something else you need to see. Every diverted dollar, and Marcus, get these files to Thomas, all of them. What are you going to do? Lisa asked. I touched Donald's watch, drawing strength. I thought of all the suffering patients, Donald's final months, and the employees' trust. There was an easy path, letting Nicholas and Audrey spin their tales, ending quietly to avoid scandal. But Donald hadn't built this company by taking the easy path. Mrs. Collins, Lisa's voice was soft. The press is asking about Nicholas's absence. Audrey's been spotted entering Judge Harrison's office. I finished my letter and sent it, then called Detective Rashid with additional information on those transactions and other matters of interest. The night stretched ahead with difficult calls and decisions, but the path before me was clear. Their schemes and lies planted the seeds of their own downfall, and I was done playing their game. Morning light began to break as my office door opened. It was Savannah, Nicholas's secretary of 20 years, red-eyed and disheveled. "I need to tell you something about the day Mr. Donald died. I should have come forward sooner, but Audrey threatened my grandson's health care, my pension." "Take your time," I offered gently, pushing a tissue box her way. Savannah breathed deeply. The night before Donald's passing, Nicholas and Audrey were in the office. They didn't know I could hear them through the vent in the file room. They laughed, laughing about their plan's perfection. How Donald's opinions would die with him. My blood chilled. "What else?" Audrey mentioned adjusting his medication, ensuring he wouldn't be lucid enough to change his will again. Her voice broke. Having worked there since Nicholas was in college, Donald had paid for her daughter's wedding, and they. As Savannah broke down, my phone buzzed with a message from Detective Rashid, Mrs. Partly thoroughness, but I think I was waiting for someone to stand up to them. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through glass walls, police spoke with Thomas in the lobby. "We have questions about transactions and your late husband Donald's care." I watched as they led her away, her heels clicking on the marble. The woman who had orchestrated so much pain. When Catherine Harrison arrived with the hospital audit results. "We've identified the affected patients, thanks to Savannah's records, proving deliberate care reductions. We will convert Donald's old summer house to a recovery center. It's what he would have wanted." Throughout the day, more stories and witnesses emerged. Donald once told me the true measure of a leader isn't the power they wield, but the trust they keep. I smiled, realizing new bonds of trust were being forged. Understanding Donald had prepared us. Collins's Dubai Hotel. Documents about a second set of properties. I smiled at Donald's words. "Take care of our legacy, Camila." The truth was unfolding in the light. Quietly purchased by Donald. Mrs. Collins, Thomas's voice was gentle, laying out the document. Each building had been converted to affordable housing for employees and families. Donald kept rents low, covering the difference himself. But after his death, Nicholas and Audrey raised rents, pocketing it, planning sales to luxury developers. "How many families?" I asked, throat tight. "Over 200. The hospital records show irregularities the night Donald died." Within an hour, Catherine returned with Savannah. Spreading out, sifting through another set of documents only deepened the sorrow of the narrative unfolding. On Donald's last night, he briefly regained lucidity and, in that moment, asked for me. However, Audrey intercepted the nurse's call, saying I was unavailable. "He wanted to share something with you," Savannah murmured gently. "I heard Audrey mention it later." "Fuming because he persistently asked for you, insisting there was something you needed to know." I closed my eyes, recalling that night spent at home, eagerly awaiting a call from Nicholas with updates. He mentioned Donald was resting peacefully and advised me to do the same. "There's more," Catherine chimed in, but also unearthed something more, a pattern of foresight with which Donald had prepared for this very possibility, a secret will, hidden properties, discreet protection of those reliant on the company. "Mrs. Collins," Lisa's voice broke my thoughts. "Employees are assembling in the main conference room. They've heard about the properties." Walking in, I faced over 100 employees, their expressions a blend of anxiety and hope. Many of them, I realized, probably lived in those buildings, fearing the looming rent hikes. Meeting their eyes. The residential properties will remain affordable housing. We're rolling back recent rent increases and creating a foundation to ensure these homes remain accessible for our employees indefinitely. The room burst into applause. I found Savannah waiting by my car. "There's one more thing," she said, holding a small key. "It's to Donald's private safe in the old filing room. He told me if anything happened to ensure you got this key." Inside the safe was a single envelope with my name on it, containing a letter dated just days before his passing. "My dearest Camilla, I've endeavored to shield what matters, both the company's assets and its soul. You were never just my daughter-in-law. You've been the daughter I always wished for, and the leader this company requires. I apologize for the burden placed on you, but you'll understand why it needed to be this way." In my desk drawer, Discussing future dreams of making the company more than a business? It's your turn now, Camilla. The company and its heart are in your care. All my love, Donald. Tears blurred my vision as I absorbed his words, recalling our weekend at the lake house, where Donald listened to my thoughts on employee support, community involvement, a vision for positive change. My phone buzzed with a message from Dubai police. Mrs. Collins, your husband's confession is complete. I held Donald's watch, contemplating betrayal, redemption, justice, and revenge, opening my laptop to write. Dear Nicholas, this week has taught me about family, legacy, and the leader I wish to become. Each word paved a path toward healing for everyone touched by this story. Donald entrusted me with more than a company. He entrusted me with his vision of what a business could be, a true family. A constant soothing reminder of Donald's belief. Truth, like water, finds its level. It was time to let the truth flow and build something beautiful with what remained. A year passed as I stood before the newly established Donald Collins Memorial Care Center, witnessing families entering for the first time. This former summer house became a state-of-the-art rehabilitation facility tasked with assisting patients impacted by previous care reductions. Mrs. Collins, a small girl, tugged at my sleeve. My grandma says you helped make her better. I knelt to her level, recognizing her grandma, one of the patients. Your grandma helped herself, I assured her, smiling. A torrent of truth unveiled revelations beyond initial discovery. Nicholas received a 5-year sentence for financial fraud and conspiracy, while Audrey faced similar charges alongside others related to Donald's care. The last I saw of her was at sentencing, designer couture replaced by prison uniform, her imposing manner broken. Yet, Savannah, now leading our revamped ethics and oversight division, her years of covert record-keeping redirected toward positive change. Affordable housing properties were placed in a trust, ensuring they served employee families over generations. A message from Thomas brightened my thoughts. The Dubai properties have been officially transferred. The Women's Shelter Project can begin. Smiling, I realized the poetic justice. Nicholas's clandestinely acquired luxury apartments in Dubai would now serve as a refuge for women escaping situations like mine. Justice often holds a poetic touch. That evening, I sat in what once was Donald's office, now mine, reading letters from employees and community members, a tapestry of healing and trust restored through the changes implemented. A knock revealed Catherine Harrison, presenting a familiar envelope. We found this in the final. My suspicions about Nicholas and Audrey were right. I'm sorry I can't be there to face what's happening, but I chose you as my successor because years ago, you asked why profits weren't used to help people. That question showed your heart, convincing me you were the one to carry on this company's true purpose. The money, buildings. Touched by the watch on my wrist, I let tears flow freely. He had signed it not as Donald or father-in-law, but Dad. He gave me not just a company to lead, but a legacy to cherish. Gazing out at the sunset over the city, I realized this view remained unchanged, but my perception did. Eyes that once saw betrayal now embraced hope, witnessed darkness, but focused on light. Catherine, and many who stood beside me, transforming deception into redemption. As I collected my belongings, passing a hallway of photos, the old images of Nicholas and Audrey were replaced by those of our community outreach, the care center, housing initiatives, a testament of what a company can achieve when led with heart. One photo from the past remained, Donald at the lake house, eyes twinkling kindly. Below, I placed his favorite quote, "Success isn't measured by profits, but by lives touched and trust kept." Locking my office, I headed out to meet my newfound family, not the one I married into, but built through shared values and mutual trust. And more compassionate than the one who watched her husband leave for Dubai a year ago. They left me to handle things, and I did, just not in the way they expected.